John talked about this a little bit at the beginning, but do you think all the newcomers like Mental, we got Clouts, Dispensa, are they better than you guys were when you started traveling to lands?
Light years better. In fact, I'm not even going to say are they better than us when we started traveling. I'm going to say they're better than us now than we were at the peak of our Gears of War 2, Gears of War 1 MLG days. And before all the old school guys freak out and say Synergy sucks, screw Synergy, I'm gonna say, the reason for that is not because they're like, they're like bred to play Gears of War, or they're just genetically superior. It's just because they've put more time, much more time in. And when you talk a game's been developed for 7 years versus when we were playing, we had only been playing the game for 2-3 years. Mm-hmm. People are gonna be much better if they play for 7 years versus 2 or 3 years. So I think it's just a natural process. Common sense will tell you that they're gonna be better, but they are. Hats off goes to Synergy to a lot of these new players. They are much more better, much better individually than we ever were.
I would say it's just one of those questions where realistically players like Mental, Clouds, or even Synergy, they're not newcomers per se. I would say the majority of them have played the game as long as everyone else. It's just they weren't unable to travel at the time, so that's why people are like all these new players, but they've been around playing the game as long as everyone else.
Right.
So to say they're better is just hard to say, just for the simple fact that
they kept playing, everyone else quit.
That, and it's not like we were playing 5 years before they were playing and they caught up and just got better than us. They were just not going to lands like everyone else was. So they've been playing the game just as long and
that's true.
Have as much experience on the game.
Yep. Yeah. Exactly. I will say, and Synergy, Yogurt, Strangulate, all those Mental, all those guys. I hope they know. I hope they watch the rebroadcast and they see. I give them much more credit than anyone else. Any of the older guys do. I think they deserve that credit. But I do want to. I will go on the limb and say, and this is just unbiased completely because I have no bias. I will go on the limb and say if they would have been able to travel back in the Gears 2 days, they would not have been a top team. And the reason for that is, and people are going to freak out, the reason for that is not because they're not good or they weren't good, but how many GB kids tried going to events and just failed miserably? Because at the end of the day, in Gears 2 and Gears 1, it was about who you had on your friends list. Were you scrimming against the pro teams or the top teams? Because if you're not playing against the best, you're not going to be the best. Mm-hmm. Luckily for SY and all these teams, when everyone started quitting, they started getting on friends lists, and obviously they started proving themselves naturally. They earned it. But people like Mental, they just naturally, people were looking for scrim. So, right now I'll add anyone on my list that's willing to scrim in Gears of War 3. Back in the day, people had to pay hundreds of dollars to get on my friend, not my friends list, but other pros would charge money. So they would not have been a top team back then simply because they would not have had the opportunity to play against the top teams, and I don't think they would have been able to break out of the AM bracket. It was just very difficult to do back then. So.
On a lighter note, do you have your most embarrassing moment at a LAN event, either while you were there or just kind of looking back on it?
Oh goodness, Jake, you take this first. I'm just
I would say people know me for my boom shot skills, how they're so great and just unmatched.
Yeah, funny.
So I guess my most embarrassing moment, which is my first time really playing Gao 2 on LAN, is at Columbus 2009. I actually had an incident on main stage where I boomed myself and a teammate.
Oh, no.
I think that falls perfectly under the criteria of a most embarrassing moment.
Yeah.
That's funny. Oh gosh, I have so many, dude. There are so many people that are gonna post pictures of me when I was 13 years old doing stupid things at events. But so I'll stick to gameplay. Gameplay wise, because I'm not going to talk about the shit I did at Vegas 08, and I'm not going to talk about that. Enough people know about that already. But gameplay-wise, I think it was at Orlando 09 or was it Anaheim 09? I can't remember. Gears 2. It was a stalemate. It was Pavilion. Everyone knows how slow Pavilion could get, and it was a stalemate. And we were on main stage. I had no idea that the caster. I mean, there's no way I could have known. It's a stalemate, and I have the ink grenade out in my hands, and with the 1 in 8 chance that the caster is watching me on my camera and that they're doing a listen-in at the same time, I sit there and I start like in-depth describing the ink grenade. And I'm like, dude, I had no idea the ink grenade was this beautiful. Like, it's a very, look at the spikes on it. And I start going into intricate detail about how beautiful the ink grenade is. It was almost like I was, high on LSD while playing Gears of War, talking about this ink grenade. And then, of course, everyone, made memes out of it and went crazy after that. So that was kind of embarrassing. But that's all. I'll stick to just that.
Just that for now.
Yeah, just that for now.
We'll have more later. Now we're going to take some questions from Twitter. So
I'm ready for these.
okay, we've got Sub-Zero from VXC. He says, how will the team dynamic be now that Fallout is on the team? Will he be the one directing traffic?
All you, Jake.
I think Fallout brings a more a more experienced. A more experience to the team, I should say. There's no real way to word that. He's already begun like coaching me from one of my problems I mentioned earlier, being a little bit over aggressive at times, taking numbers and just dying just because I see a play that I think will be good. And Fallout's already been trying to help me slow it down. I feel like Fallout's the kind of type of player that I needed. I told Kenny and Letnek for a while that I'm gonna use Excels for an example. Is I love playing with those leader type players just because it makes it a little easier for me, I'd say. And that's just me. And Excels was, for an example, like I said, in Fallout's gonna be. I feel like gonna be a great for the Excels role. I should say is Excels lets me know, what I did wrong, how to fix it, and all that. And Fallout's already been doing that. And he's been helping Kenny as well, and Letnek. He's been, if we down a guy, he'd let us know, hey, instead of darting for that kill, feel free to, bait it out for another kill. If he gets back up and you got that other kill, it doesn't matter because you still got a kill in the end.
My question to that would be, is it more of an adaptive process for you, Fallout, to go into a team of 3, or is the Funky Bunch adapting to Fallout, or is it kind of an equal partnership?
Yeah, so it was interesting. I kind of tested the waters. I told Jake and the team this a little bit. Early on, I was like, I went in because Kenny told me this. Kenny said, actually, because at first I thought they wanted me to just come in and to be slaying power to take some of the weight off of Kenny is the perspective I had. But Kenny was like, no, dude, we actually could use, some of your experience, some of your leadership. And I was like, okay. So I kind of tested the waters, and I was like OD, communicating, calling things out, letting people know if mistakes were made, this, and that. And then I kind of slowed it down a little bit, and I kind of let myself adapt to the team. So in my opinion, Jake, you correct me if I'm wrong, I think definitely an equilibrium between the two. But early on, I wanted to kind of test the waters to see where my role is, where they need me the most, how they need me to fit. But now that I've kind of seen that, I noticed that, Letnik is actually the communications guru. Unreal. That's a question I think someone asked. I think Kenny asked actually that question. Hopefully he'll get to it. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But I think now that I realize what the team dynamic is like, I think I'm going to be just fitting in a lot of ways and filling in wherever they need me to as well. It'll be a combination of both.
All right, this one is from Strangulate to Fallout. How do you think your role as a commentator this year will impact your team's strategy for Summer Jam? You must have an amazing grasp on the style of both teams and individual players.
Wow, that's a really good question. Hats off to you, Strangulate, seriously, man. That's definitely true. I've seen a lot, and I've definitely, as a commentator, I like to analyze. I like to actually go a little bit deeper than just scream what's going on, right? So I know how SYN plays. And I would like to say, ideally, I'd like to say, I can tell you every single strat that they run, and I can tell you everything that they're going to do, and we can counter that. But unfortunately, it's not that in-depth. I can tell you that, yes, they rely heavily on Nasty being kind of a bull in a china shop and going nuts. And if you shut down Nasty, Yogurt is going to be the one that's going to step up and do the same exact thing. So if you shut down Yogurt and Nasty, maybe you found the formula to success. But that's as far as it goes. It's maybe just like play styles, not as much as like, okay, this map they're going to run this strat, this is going to happen. If you counter with this, they're going to run that. Unfortunately, as a commentator, it's hard to get that in depth.
Right. Okay, this is for both you guys. This is from York94. As a team consensus, which team do you think you all see as the biggest competition or strongest competitor?
I'm going to say, Jake, you have a different opinion because you've been a player for the last couple of months. From a caster's perspective, from my perspective, and because I blow smoke up their ass all the time because I really I respect the shit out of them. I love them. Synergy without a doubt. Not even a question in my mind.
I think that's on everyone's radar.
I can say the same exact thing.
Okay.
with Synergy not practicing it, and I didn't really watch too much because when I'm at an event and I lose, hopefully one day I'll win it all and I won't have to do this. But like when I'm at an event and lose, I don't pay attention much to the gears, just because if I lost and I'm out, I don't need to pay attention to it. So I'd rather spend time with people I don't see very often. But from what I did see, I feel like their teamwork, regardless of playing or not, is just on another level.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Okay, so this one is from Kenny Bouts. Who is the most valuable player on the team and why? This
Go
is
ahead,
for
Vic.
both of
It's
you.
you.
I'll let you hit that one first as the newcomer, Fallout.
Okay. It's interesting. The obvious answer: Kenny Bounce. Kenny's most valuable. He's a mine. And I agree from like a skill perspective, a slaying perspective, we'd be nothing without Kenny in a lot of ways because he's just like so many levels. In my opinion, PR, you're probably gonna disagree. I know Letnik definitely disagrees. Kenny's biggest hater in the world is Letnik. It's like the funniest thing to hear her bitching at him. It's so funny. I wish you guys could see that. Hopefully, we'll have listen-ins at the next hype so you guys can hear that dynamic. It's awesome. We have a lot of fun, that's for sure. But anyways, so the obvious answer is Kenny from a slaying perspective. But in terms of most important, Letnik is like the glue. When I say the glue, that's an understatement. Letnik is like the super glue that, like, the adhesive, the super strong adhesive that keeps everything together. Without her communication, without her energy, I think it'd be night and day. I have yet to see her not have a ton of energy and a lot of communication. But if she was like in a bad mood or shut down, the team would all shut down. I really think that's true. So I'm gonna say Letnik. You guys don't realize, she is literally, her communication is better than anyone's I've ever heard. I've teamed with a lot of people. I've teamed with Shane. I've teamed with Nick. Prospect and Shane. But her communication is better than anyone's I've ever teamed with.
I could say the same thing right there, just because even though like Fallout said, she does criticize Kenny a lot, but a lot of the points when she criticizes Kenny, she's like spot on.
Spot on, dude. It's crazy.
Kenny will be there wall bouncing, and even though everyone knows Kenny has a really good wall bounce, and he's makes few mistakes. It's just the fact that certain situations in which he wall bounces in, it's just unnecessary. Instead of wall bouncing, he can hold an L while having like 2-3 crosses, and Letnik is the perfect person to call him out on it for that. So I mean, she calls out a lot of people on the mistakes. I feel like that helps us all overall. So that, and her thinking, her ability to communication, she brings a lot to the table that people don't see just because she's a girl.
All right, so that's all the questions that we have for you guys. Thank you so much for being here, guys. Make sure you follow their links as you see on the screen right now going through there. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it, and I look forward to seeing what you guys can do at Hypefestation Summer Jam.
Summer Jam. Yeah! Thank you
Thanks for the opportunity.
Appreciate it, Brett.